Chapter 3 comes out in a few months this winter, and today I wanted to rediscuss the release date and time of the game, whatever happened to the ARG last month, and also some other mystery content that could be coming into the game extremely soon. Like the video if you end up enjoying, but let's get right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 ARG. Where did it go? See, if you don't remember, a couple weeks ago, the Chapter 3 teaser trailer ended up releasing, and with it, we actually got ourselves a brand new ARG, the one that we've been waiting for a while, showing us a brand new website with a computer, and I made a couple videos on it as well, solving all the puzzles and giving us 2 different password locked codes here that we've been trying to solve for weeks. However, you might have noticed that at least at this point, the ARG has seemingly been completely abandoned with no new clues, teasers, or even solutions to the passwords, despite the countless amount of hours being put into it trying to solve all of them, which is super odd because their last 2 ARGs, the Chapter 2 one, if you can call it that, and the Project Playtime ARG, both only lasted like a couple of weeks and we're getting consistent updates with content. So what is the deal? Is something wrong going on here? Well, to put it simply, we can theorize that this ARG, when it's completed, is most likely going to give us some sort of reward at the end, kind of like in Project Playtime, where after the ARG was solved, we were met with Boxy Boo's character reveal followed by a trailer immediately after, and I think it's going to work in a very similar way with this one. However, as we mentioned at the beginning of the video, Chapter 3 is still multiple months away at this point, coming in winter, and while I think it's pretty safe to assume that the ARG is probably going to have some sort of massive reveal like a trailer or something, at least in that vein, it probably wouldn't make sense for us to get a gameplay trailer or something for a game that isn't even realistically that close to coming out yet, which is most likely why the ARG has been at such a massive halt lately. And what this tells me is that for those trying to solve the password, it's honestly really no use at this point, because something that's actually extremely common for ARGs is to actually have the puzzles be only half finished at the start, like what we have here, and then as more time goes by, more and more puzzles and clues will be revealed leading up to its release, which most likely will be a little while from now. But overall, for now, I think it's pretty safe to say that the ARG is being put on a pretty big hold for the time being until we get some sort of update on it, which should hopefully be in the next couple weeks, as we talk about later in this video. However, while we're on the topic of stuff that seemingly disappeared, the next thing I want to ask is whatever happened to Project Playtime's full release as well, because as you may or may not remember, when Project Playtime first ended up getting released, the developers actually confirmed that in the first half of 2023, the game was going to go from early access all the way into its full version, which I was even skeptical of at the time. However, here we are still in the game's base early access with 1 new season, so whatever happened with that as well? Well, to be honest, I think that Project Playtime, at least to some extent, has been put on the back burner a little bit for the developers, because while they have told us many times that the Project Playtime and Poppy Playtime team are completely separate, they have also confirmed in recent times that more resources are actually being moved into Chapter 3 in order to help it meet its deadline, sort of shelving Project Playtime new content, at least for the time being, which makes complete sense, at least from what I'm hearing with Chapter 3. It sounds like the game is taking way longer than what they were expecting, and the fact that they are even still planning on dropping it this year is a surprise. But if you were a Project Playtime fan, to be honest, it doesn't seem like we're going to be getting much from the developers, at least until Chapter 3 is completed. But on the bright side, this at least means they are putting absolutely everything into Chapter 3 while they can, and when the chapter is done, we can most likely expect a ton of new stuff to come in all at once as well, such as new skins, of course, especially since the game is going to release around the time of Christmas, I can only assume. And a long time ago, the developers hinted at the idea of the brand new Chapter 3 monster being added into Project Playtime, while also prototyping other monsters like PJ Pugapillar. So at least it seems as we're getting close to Chapter 3 finally coming out, content for Project Playtime is going to be extremely dry, and the game's mobile ports and full release are, if anything, on a complete hold. But there is a ton of content coming down the pipeline at the end of the year, which I can't wait for. Something I should mention, though, is that the developers are already very aware of the delay, as a long time ago at this point, they already removed the release estimate from their Steam page, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. But focusing back in on Chapter 3 stuff, another big question I had about the game's late year release is when, and more specifically, how is Chapter 3 going to release? I mean, I literally made a solo video on this exact subject like 2 months ago that was immediately outdated by their newest release announcement of this winter, but when exactly could the game release, and how will it all work when it does? Well, to answer that first question, I'm first off taking the term winter 2023 very lightly, most likely as sometime in December like Project Playtime, or in late fall like in November. At some point within those 2 months, I assume, is a good boundary to stick in. But to be more specific, a little while ago, somebody allegedly leaked all of the upcoming events for Project Playtime, leaking at least some of their general plans for when they wanted to release events and skins in that game. However, in this mini leak, there are pointers to a ton of things, like the dates for their Christmas event, where they will definitely want to have skins for Chapter 3, which allegedly starts on December 18th, most likely well after the chapter will have already released, which we can theorize is likely going to be before that event. And plus, there's also this other miscellaneous date from January 12th to January 27th called the Mob event, which, while the event date is likely meaningless and outdated in the grand scheme of things, this event could be some sort of placeholder name for something in Project Playtime like their own Chapter 3 event, which you would honestly be expecting them to do with all the hype around the game already, with them obviously wanting to make Project Playtime as popular as possible. And the ambiguous date of this mystery event also somewhat lines up with the Chapter 3 release estimate of winter 2023, as the rumored event is just a couple weeks after the year ends, but I'm just guessing here. In terms of the actual rollout of the game and how it's going to release, whether it be in November or December, for starters, like we said earlier, we are eventually going to be able to finish the ARG. I don't know if that's going to give us a new teaser or a character reveal or something in that nature, but the developers have also confirmed to us in other videos that there's going to be a full-blown gameplay trailer coming at some point in the future soon, and that'll most likely be the final trailer, meaning at any moment now when they announce it, that's probably when we will get an official release date for the title. And if we are using other chapters as a benchmark for what to expect, we can even confirm that at least most likely when the gameplay trailer does release, we will also get a VHS tape of the Chapter 3 main antagonist, just like what we saw with Mommy Longlegs and Poppy Playtime. However, there's also some other extra content coming with Chapter 3's rollout. For example, the developers have hinted before at the idea of doing a VR experience for the rollout of Chapter 3, although to be honest, with how little time until the chapter releases, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. But something I found extremely interesting in the Chapter 3 upcoming release is that a little while ago, the Monster and Mortals developers announced that they were ready to drop their Poppy Playtime collaboration into their game, which they've been working on for over a year now, and was going to add the characters Huggy Wuggy and Kissy Missy, I believe, and that all was supposed to come out last month. However, the developers have actually came out recently saying that they were fully delaying the July release date, seemingly out of nowhere, while giving us some other cool screenshots of the upcoming map. But specifically, they made a tweet addressing the delay, saying the release of the Poppy Playtime DLC is being held to a very specific date. That said, the Poppy Playtime DLC will not release in July as previously mentioned, but there's a huge benefit to the delay, which was extremely odd to me when I first saw it, since basically that means the Monsters and Mortals DLC is already finished, but they are intentionally holding it back for some sort of release for some reason. I even theorized in a previous video that this could be them adding the Chapter 3 character, maybe, but for me, after thinking about it for a while, this actually instead sounds like them saying that they were holding the DLC back for some sort of major Poppy Playtime related announcement coming in the very near future, specifically, especially if they are delaying an entire already finished DLC just to release it on a very specific day, most likely being in August or early September. Now, what this day in question is, to be honest, I really have no clue, but I can almost promise you it's going to be the release of something massive, like some more Chapter 3 promotional stuff like what we've already discussed in this video. Maybe this is when we'll finally get an update on the Chapter 3 ARG while it's still standing stagnant. But this post right here, for better or for worse, gives me hope that while Chapter 3 might still be months away, maybe some ARG updates or even a trailer could be just around the corner, which I love to hear. But one final question I wanted to ask is, when Chapter 3 releases, what is the plot going to be about? And in fact, I made a whole 20-minute video talking about all of that in this video here. Make sure to check it out, subscribe if you enjoyed, and peace out.